Xiao Yan's long-prepared plan to rescue his teacher was finally about to be set in motion. In the last chapter, Xiao Yan had defeated the Heavenly Abyss sect's genius, Qiong, with just 3 palm strikes, forcibly taking the storage ring from his hand. Struggling to his feet, Qiong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and glared at Xiao Yan with eyes full of fury, looking like a wild beast. At the same time, Chen Tianan, who had brought Qiong, had a sinister expression on his face. Originally planning to use Qiong to avenge his son, Chen Xian, he had instead ended up boosting Xiao Yan's prestige. The thought filled Chen Tianan with a bone-chilling murderous intent. Stepping forward, he tore through the air, extending his hand to grab Xiao Yan's head. "Boy, you'll pay for my son's life." Seeing this, the Grand Elder of the Pill Tower, Qiao, suddenly changed his expression. Although he had witnessed Xiao Yan's capabilities, Chen Tianan was a genuine Dozun expert. If that attack landed, even if Xiao Yan survived, he would be severely injured. Just as Qiao was about to intervene, he saw a cold smile on Xiao Yan's face. The next moment, a dark golden figure appeared in front of Xiao Yan and punched without hesitation, clashing with Chen Tianan's hand. A sharp metallic sound echoed, and the resulting shockwave forced Chen Tianan back several steps before he could stabilize himself. The numbing sensation in his hand sent shockwaves through Chen Tianan's mind. As he reeled in surprise, the experts from the mysterious Abyss sect drew their weapons. But before they could act, 2 more figures emerged beside Xiao Yan. The overwhelming aura they exuded sent the sect members retreating in fear. Seeing the Dozun of Fire and the little fairy doctor suddenly appear, Chen Tianan's face turned extremely grim. He could sense that both of them were genuine Dozun experts. What was even more terrifying was the dangerous aura emanating from the young woman in white, which made him shiver with fear. Moreover, with the addition of that eerie puppet from earlier, Xiao Yan now had 3 Dozun experts by his side. Even the mysterious Abyss sect couldn't withstand such a lineup. Placing his last hope on Qiong, Chen Tianan hoped to leverage the Heavenly Abyss sect's influence to persuade the Pill Tower to hand over Xiao Yan. However, one of the Pill Tower's 3 leaders, Xian Yi, appeared. Sensing the hint of anger in Xian Yi's aura, both Chen Tianan and Qiong broke out in a cold sweat. Chen Tianan had no choice but to swallow his bitterness and retreat from Dan City with his sect members in a panic. Xian Yi ignored the retreating enemies and instead escorted Xiao Yan back to the Pill Tower. It wasn't until they met the Pill Tower's president, Xian Kongzi, that Xiao Yan learned they had discovered clues about his teacher. Xian Kongzi spread out a sheepskin scroll and pointed northwest, saying solemnly, "The Soul Hall has many hidden branches in the Central Plains, undetectable to ordinary people. In the northwest region lies the soul-devouring mountain range, which conceals one of their branches." As Xian Kongzi explained, Xiao Yan's breath quickened with excitement. Seeing his reaction, Xian Kongzi shook his head and said, "Rescuing Elder Pill will be more difficult than imagined. The soul-devouring mountain range is a dangerous place, shrouded in fog and home to powerful magical beasts. Besides the treacherous terrain, our scouts have reported that at least 5 Dozun experts guard this branch, and there might even be a Heavenly Dozun, the highest-ranking guardian." Hearing this, even Xiao Yan couldn't help but frown. A Heavenly Dozun of the Soul Hall would be at least a 5-star Dozun. With his current team, charging in would be suicidal. Therefore, he had to wait for the arrival of the Dozun of Wind. Slightly relieved, Xiao Yan bid farewell to Xian Kongzi and Xian Yi, and without resting, he returned to his room to continue his seclusion. During this period, he refined the 8th-grade polyporous azure pill, helping the Dozun of Fire recover to a 3-star Dozun level. He also found the Heavenly Abyss Azura's Hand, a powerful secret technique from Qiong's storage ring, nearly as strong as the Imperial Seal mantra. On the 5th day of his intense training, Xiao Yan sensed the familiar presence of the Dozun of Wind. Responding to Xiao Yan's summons, the Dozun of Wind had traveled day and night to reach the designated location. Now, in a grand hall at the top of the Pill Tower, besides the 3 Pill Tower leaders, several other figures sat casually while attendants respectfully served tea. Xian Kongzi looked at the smiling elder in green and laughed. "Dozun of Wind, it's been many years, but you remain as carefree as ever. The Dozun of Wind shook his head in response. How can I be as comfortable as you, a leader of the Pill Tower? Compared to the Pill Tower, my Falling Star Pavilion is just a minor player. Their friendly banter indicated a good relationship between the two prominent figures. However, during their conversation, Xin Kongzi's attention was drawn to a stern-looking elder standing behind the Dozun of Wind. This man stood straight, exuding an extremely sharp aura, like a chilling iron sword. Curious, Xin Kongzi asked, I haven't left the pill domain for many years. May I know who this friend is? The stern elder showed some courtesy, cupping his hands with a slightly awkward smile. I have long forgotten my old name. I later gave myself a new one, Iron Sword. Hearing this, Xin Kongzi's face flashed with surprise. Iron Sword? Could it be that you are the Dozun of Iron Sword who single-handedly massacred the Jade Sword sect 5 years ago? The elder named Iron Sword's mouth twitched, and he nodded slightly, clearly unwilling to dwell on the topic. Sensing the awkwardness, the Dozun of Wind quickly interrupted, his gaze sweeping across the hall as he joked, Where's Xiao? That kid summoned me here, but hasn't shown himself yet? How could I dare to keep you waiting, Elder Wind? A light laugh came from outside the hall as several figures pushed open the doors and entered. Upon seeing Xiao, the Dozun of Wind paused slightly with his teacup, a barely noticeable look of surprise crossing his face. He clearly remembered that when they last parted, Xiao was just a newly advanced Dozong. Yet in just over a year, he had already risen to the 9-star level. The stern-faced Dozun of Iron Sword also showed a slight reaction, a hint of astonishment flickering in his otherwise calm eyes. He had heard about Xiao from the Dozun of Wind, initially dismissing the praise as mere exaggeration. However, now meeting Xiao in person, he could sense the extraordinary nature hidden beneath that young face. As Xiao walked into the grand hall with a smile, the Dozun of Wind's gaze froze on the 3 figures behind him. They were, of course, the little fairy doctor, the Dozun of Fire, and the lazily smiling Ziyin. The Dozun of Wind blinked, noticing the close relationship between Xiao and these 3. Most notably, the old man and the young girl were both at the 3-star Dozun level. Learning that these 3 were here to assist, even the Dozun of Wind felt a bit embarrassed. Over the past year, he had sought help from his friends, but upon hearing that they would be opposing the Soul Hall, they had all withdrawn, except for the Dozun of Iron Sword, who came because of a significant favor owed to Elder Pill. Everyone knew the risks of confronting the Soul Hall, so those willing to step forward at this moment earned Xiao respect. Xiao bowed solemnly to the Dozun of Iron Sword, saying, On behalf of my teacher, I thank you for your great righteousness, Dozun of Iron Sword. The Dozun of Iron Sword replied, It was Elder Yao Chun who helped me avenge my blood feud. Now, I have no more attachments. If I can rescue that old man and repay his great kindness, facing the Soul Hall is nothing. With this, the team to rescue Elder Pill was complete. They had the little fairy doctor, the Dozun of Fire, and the heavenly demon puppet, plus the Dozun of Wind and the Dozun of Iron Sword. This gave them 5 Dozun experts, and with Xiao and Ziyin, he was 70% confident of rescuing Elder Pill from the Soul Hall. At dawn the next day, the group quietly left the Pill Tower, heading towards the soul-devouring mountain range in the western part of the Central Plains. This long-planned rescue mission was finally fully underway. Xiao gathered the little fairy doctor, the Dozun of Wind, and the others to rescue Elder Pill from the Soul Hall's branch hall. After 4 days and nights of continuous flight, they finally arrived near the soul-devouring mountain range. Seeing the frost-covered mountains in the distance, Xiao tense face relaxed slightly. He and the others landed on a mountain peak just outside the range, with Ziyin plopping down onto the ground, her face full of exhaustion. The past few days of travel had indeed worn her out. The Dozun of Wind stepped forward with a solemn expression. Even at the outskirts of the mountain range, he could sense the dense cold mist. Entering deeper would risk getting lost, so they had to proceed on foot. Additionally, there were numerous sects and factions around the soul-devouring mountain range. Given the Soul Hall's cautious nature, these forces were likely under their secret control, acting as their eyes and ears. This meant they had to be extremely vigilant to avoid drawing any attention. After resting for about half an hour, everyone stood up simultaneously. Compared to anyone else, the Dozun of Wind was the most familiar with the Central Plains. After exchanging a glance, they followed his lead and ventured into the mist-covered forest. However, as they delved deeper into the mountain range, they began to encounter some difficulties. This season was when the cold mist in the soul-devouring mountain range was at its strongest, rendering the map given by Xian Kongzi ineffective. After groping their way for a while, the Dozun of Wind noticed the surrounding mist growing dimmer. He frowned and said softly, "It's getting dark. We can't continue any further. The magical beasts in the soul-devouring mountain range are extremely ferocious at night, and they are difficult to shake off once they latch onto you. Any disturbance might not only attract other magical beasts, but also alert the Soul Hall's experts." Upon hearing this, Xiao nodded slowly. Seeing no objections from the group, the Dozun of Wind gestured to the Dozun of Iron Sword. The latter casually tossed out some dark objects. Xiao and the others learned from the Dozun of Wind's explanation that these were the droppings of high-level magical beasts, which could repel other beasts. Xiao couldn't help but smile wryly. They had prepared so thoroughly to rescue his teacher, yet they couldn't even confirm the location of the Soul Hall. It was somewhat ironic. Despite his frustration, Xiao didn't voice his thoughts. He leaned against a tree trunk, sat cross-legged, and slowly closed his eyes. The others, having traveled for so long, also closed their eyes for a brief rest. The soul-devouring mountain range was particularly chilly at night, with various howls echoing through the mountains. The noise persisted for half the night before gradually quieting down. Just as Xiao and the others breathed a sigh of relief, they suddenly heard some rustling sounds from a distance. The Dozun of Wind abruptly opened his eyes and scanned the distant white mist, exclaiming, "Damn! It's a swarm of stone-devouring ants." The group's expressions changed dramatically at his words. The stone-devouring ant swarm was one of the most terrifying magical beasts in the soul-devouring mountain range. Though individually weak, they numbered in the tens of thousands and could devour any flesh in their path, leaving only bones without a trace of blood. Any strong person who encountered this ant swarm in the mountains faced certain death. If these ants could survive outside the cold mist, no one would dare live near the mountains. The Dozun of Wind hadn't anticipated such bad luck. Just entering the soul-devouring mountain range, they encountered such a troublesome entity. Thinking quickly, he stood up and said in a low voice, "Prepare to retreat. Do not engage with these damn things head-on." Seeing the serious expression on the Dozun of Wind's face, Xiao and the others did not dare to delay. But just as they were about to retreat, a petite purple figure dashed into the cold mist where the sound was coming from. As the Dozun of Wind's expression turned to shock, the rustling sound abruptly stopped. Moments later, the small figure re-emerged from the mist unharmed, with a half-foot-long 8-winged giant ant, the stone-devouring ant queen, perched on her shoulder. Faced with the astonished looks of the Dozun of Wind and the others, Ziyan simply laughed and proudly pointed ahead, telling everyone, "This big guy knows the location of the Soul Hall." Hearing Ziyan's words, the Dozun of Wind and the others exclaimed in surprise, "Didn't expect this little girl to be so extraordinary." Xiao smiled. Compared to the others' astonishment, he was much calmer, knowing Ziyan's true identity. The primordial ancient dragon is known as the sovereign of all beasts, and the innate bloodline pressure has a mysterious deterrent effect on lower-level magical beasts. With the Ant Queen leading the way, the group's speed increased significantly, and they no longer needed to worry about finding the right path. Within half an hour, they had reached the heart of the mountain range. Before them stood a colossal black palace, over 100 feet tall, exuding a chilling and terrifying aura. Xiao remarked, "So this is the Soul Hall. Wait, the space here is protected by a spatial barrier." Ziyan responded, "Leave the spatial barrier to me. I can slice through it without alerting those inside." Xiao nodded slightly, then turned to the Dozun of Wind, "Elder Wind, can you sense how many Dozun experts are in this hall?" The Dozun of Wind closed his eyes briefly, then opened them and whispered, "The intelligence was accurate. I can sense 5 faint presences, indicating 5 Do Zun level experts. There are also no fewer than 10 Do Zong experts. Xiao Yin felt a subtle sense of relief in his heart. 5 Do Zun. Such a lineup was indeed extremely formidable, but at least they were still manageable. Elder Wind said in a deep voice, 5 Do Zuns. We 4 can barely hold them off. Xiao Yin, you must seize the opportunity to enter the Soul Hall and find Yao Chun. Once you find him, take him away immediately. We cannot linger. We can't be sure if the Soul Hall has a quick rescue method. Xiao Yin replied, with this, it won't be just barely. Saying this, he flicked his finger, and the heavenly demon puppet appeared beside him. Its dark golden body, hidden in the mist, was not easily detectable. Seeing the heavenly demon puppet, both Elder Wind and Iron Sword Elder's expressions changed dramatically. They were astonished, thinking, is this a Do Zun level puppet? Elder Wind was deeply shaken. It was hard to imagine how, in just over a year, Xiao Yan's strength had grown to this extent. He then said, good, with this puppet, we can thoroughly hold off the 5 Do Zuns of the Soul Hall. The task of finding Yao Chun is entrusted to you. Deep within the Black Palace, there was a vast square. On the square stood black stone pillars, towering hundreds of feet high, covered with countless eerie runes. Numerous dark chains extended from the stone pillars, crisscrossing in midair above the square. At the ends of these chains hung dim light clusters, each containing a pained, ethereal soul. Yao Chun, held captive by the Soul Hall. Yao Chun, on the platform, suddenly opened his tightly closed eyes. In that instant, a familiar aura appeared in his perception. The appearance of this aura stunned Yao Chun. After a moment, he took a deep breath and slowly lifted his head. His eyes, dry for so long, suddenly welled up with moisture. When he left back then, this aura belonged to a young boy who needed his constant protection. Yet now, this aura had grown so much. The fledgling eagle of those years had finally soared into the sky.